This is the story of a king who renounced everything, yet forgot to abandon the one thing that mattered most. One day, the king looked at his reflection and noticed strands of white hair. The king said, "Queen, my hair has begun to turn white. I am growing old." The queen smiled and replied, "White hair is a sign of wisdom. Why should that trouble you?" The king remained silent for a moment and then said, "In ancient times, when a man's hair turned white, he would leave the world and go into the forest in search of truth." The queen looked at him with concern. "Why are you saying this?" The king answered, "Because I am leaving. I seek something that cannot be found here." The queen said, "But it was you who once told me that there is nothing more beautiful in this world than me." The king nodded. "I did say that, and I still believe it. But there is something beyond beauty. To attain it, I must leave everything behind." The queen spoke gently. "I can give you the wisdom you seek. I know exactly what you are searching for." But the king shook his head. "Perhaps I am not yet ready to understand your words. Now I must begin the journey within." The queen tried to stop him. "Please do not go, my king." But the king replied, "I must." Despite her pleas, he left the palace and entered the forest. There, he built a small hut and devoted himself to meditation. But the queen was no ordinary woman. She was a master of yoga and possessed deep spiritual wisdom. The king, however, had not yet reached a state where he could truly listen. Through the power of yoga, the queen projected her subtle body into the forest. Disguised as a young sage, she appeared before the king. The king opened his eyes and asked, "Who are you? Your arrival in this lonely forest does not seem ordinary." The young sage smiled and replied, "Where a question is sincere, the answer finds its own way." The king bowed respectfully. "I have left everything behind. My kingdom, my wealth, my status, and all my relationships. Now only the desire for liberation remains." The sage looked at him carefully. "You have left many things behind, king. But the heaviest burden is still with you." The king was surprised. "What do you mean?" The sage replied, "You left the royal palace, but became attached to this hut. You removed the robes of a king, only to wear the robes of a monk. The appearance has changed, but the attachment remains." The king thought for a moment. "Then what should I do, master? Should I abandon this hut as well?" The sage shook his head. "Be still, king. If you leave this hut, the mind will simply cling to something else. The problem is not outside. The problem lies within." The king asked, "Then tell me, master, what is the one thing that must be abandoned above all else?" The sage replied, "The thing that says, 'I left. I renounced. I seek liberation.'" The king frowned. "The I." The sage nodded. "Yes, that I is the ego. That is the bondage. That is the prison." The king asked, "But how do I let go of it?" The sage answered, "Do not fight it. Do not run from it. Simply observe it. Whenever the thought of I arises, ask yourself, where did this I come from? Do not force an answer. Just watch. And where the watcher disappears, truth reveals itself." The king closed his eyes. Days passed. The king remained absorbed in contemplation for an entire week. Then one morning, something changed. When he opened his eyes, a deep peace filled his face. Words flowed effortlessly from his lips. The king said, "I am not going anywhere now. I am free. What I was searching for, I have found. Let us return home." Then he looked at the sage and continued, "You stood before me all along, yet I wandered far and wide. My mind was too full to listen. Now it is empty." The young sage smiled. In that very moment, the disguise disappeared, and the king recognized his queen. The queen spoke softly. "Wisdom sees neither man nor woman. Ego is the greatest bondage. True renunciation is not the renunciation of possessions. It is the renunciation of the I." And with that realization, the king finally understood that freedom was never found by leaving the world behind. It was found by letting go of the one who claimed ownership of it all.